You're listening to Excess Gaming Podcast, a podcast for gamers by gamers, with your hosts Xander, Skullion, and James Gruesome, bringing you something old, something new, and a little bit of nostalgia too. Hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Excess Gaming Podcast. This is episode 68. We're recording this on the 19th of July. I want to say good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whichever time you guys are checking us out. I'm one of your hosts, Xander Skullion, and unfortunately, I think James might still be asleep. We're recording this on a Sunday morning, and we all work really late hours, so I think he's probably still asleep. I messaged him, so he might be a little late, but he's going to be on the show. But we're also joined by another great guest. And this has been a long time coming. I'm glad to have him on the show. We're joined from Entertainment Talk Nation, Rob Rosado. What's up, Rob?
Yo, what's going on, man? It's good to be doing this again. I know you were part of my show for a while, and I put that on hiatus for a little bit while I clean up my channel. But this is awesome to finally be on your podcast.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's funny because that's initially. I met you through your channel and through your group page, The Nation, on Facebook, and that's the one thing that kind of got us to bond together is when you started doing the podcast and you needed some help with it, and then it was kind of funny because I helped you with it, and then I kind of became a guest.
Yeah, it was so fun having you on there. I didn't want you to go, so you know what I mean? And plus, obviously you're very insightful, and I also felt that we needed someone who was not only an expert with podcasting, but someone expert in gaming. So I thought, as much as I love games, I'm not up to speed on it like you are. So I said, yeah, I need an expert on here to make sure that, when we get game stuff out there, that they know what they're talking about, and I don't always just, screw it up.
Yeah, because that's one of the cool things I really like about the channel and the podcast is you cover a whole buffet of different subjects, from comics to movies, TV shows, video games, just that whole culture. It's almost like every time you watch The Nation or you listen to a podcast, it's like you're getting an insightful Comic-Con experience or something like that. So for some of our new listeners and some of the listeners that haven't checked out your show yet, how about you tell us about Entertainment Talk Nation?
All right. Well, ETN is basically, much like you said, I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. I like to cover anything entertainment related, whether it's gaming, movies, TV shows, things of that nature. The only entertainment I don't really talk about is the kind of stuff you read in the tabloids, like what's going on with the Kardashians. I don't cover that crap. But, but basically, that's what I like. It's just something I'm real passionate about. I love, as a everyday working dad, we all have to deal with our daily struggle of going to work, paying our bills. So entertainment related things are always a good escape from that reality to kind of bring balance to your life. And I've always enjoyed talking to my friends about movies, talking to my friends about TV shows, playing games with my friends. And I don't really quite get to do that as much anymore because I've moved out to Massachusetts. I've been up here for the last 7 years. Originally from the Bronx, New York. So that's what inspired me to start ETN, was to try and develop a small community where I can exchange these kinds of stories and exchange this passion with other people. And that's exactly what it is now. So I've pretty much accomplished my goal in terms of creating my channel. And from that point forward, it's only been growing. It's already a lot bigger than I ever thought it would be. I always thought to myself, who would want to watch this big fat dude talking about movies on a video? But apparently a couple thousand people do, at least 17,000 at this point. So I'm pretty happy with it. And that's pretty much the story. That's the gist of it.
Yeah, it's always nice seeing a channel grow, man. I remember, when I first started checking you out, of course it was during the Godzilla, 2014 movie when that was coming out. You were like the basis of all the news and conspiracies and little predictions of that. And I remember my friend Amanda was the one that showed me your channel, and I started watching it and stuff like that. And it's the only channel that you can watch where you can get, a kaiju battle, or you can get like insight on like if Luke is going to the dark side, and then you get a conspiracy theory like completely off the wall, like and that's what I really like about it. It's something of everything. And when you were first starting your channel, though, what was your initial thoughts? Because I know when I started my YouTube channel, I was like, man, this is going to be like just a little hobby. I'll probably make like 2 or 3 videos and not do anything else. But it's weird how it kind of creeps up on you, and it becomes like, I don't want to say like a full-time gig, but it becomes like a part of your life at that point. It really sneaks up on you.
Yeah, it's I didn't have anything planned. My first thing I wanted to do was I wanted to review The Walking Dead. That was the first show I wanted to review, and then from there go on and review other shows that I liked. The Godzilla thing happened by accident. That's really what made the channel take off. Ironically, I mean, I am a huge Godzilla fan, but at that time I thought to myself, well, I mean, I'm like the only Godzilla fan I know. I was like, there can't be that many people into this. And boy, was I wrong. It was a whole world into that movie, and it all started when the first leaked trailer came out. And then it took off from there. Forget it. I did a couple of Godzilla videos. Next thing you know, my channel is getting swarmed with subscribers. And I said, well, wow, this is awesome now. And it was even better for me because it's one thing that I'm passionate about entertainment, but I'm passionate about Godzilla. So to me, it was a win-win. I'm like, wow, I get to talk about Godzilla and the channel's thriving. And it just went from there. And obviously, you could say that Godzilla is more or less the flagship of my channel. Cause I still do Godzilla videos now. I'm even doing videos for the 2018 movie in terms of speculation and just general discussion. But aside from that, I do now I have a couple of videos for the 2016 movie. Then I just come up with random videos. And the conspiracy theory thing, going back to that real quick, I always found the conspiracy theories entertaining as well. It's not necessarily that I'm one of those crazy, really extreme people that believe in each and every one, but I always thought that some of them were interesting enough to generate a conversation. And, when you can look at something like that and at least take it from a 50-50 standpoint, like maybe it's possible, maybe it's not, then it becomes interesting. And then next you know, it's entertaining to talk about. It's entertaining to read about. And that's why I kind of do that and it's amazing because that's been probably the longest running, along with Godzilla, that's probably been the longest running series on my channel is conspiracy theories. And, it's amazing how those videos, they don't dry out. They usually start off slow on my channel, but then over the course of a year, the views will actually increase. Because, that's people just randomly look for conspiracy theories. So, but yeah, man, that's basically how it's been going down.
Yeah, and it's funny, because as the popularity of your channel has been rising, the popularity of Godzilla has been rising. And, I always tell people when they want to start a YouTube channel, and they're kind of like, I don't know what I want to do. I always tell people just do what you want. I mean, that's the thing about YouTube is, even if you are a gaming channel, it's okay to kind of venture off. Like, I've been doing reviews of the Dragon Ball Super series that's been coming out, and it's funny because one of my most viewed videos on my channel has nothing to do with gaming. It's about Norwegian candy. I had a friend from Norway send me candy, and I did a taste test on my channel, and it's like at like 11,000 views, and I'm just like, and it was like growing so quick. I was like looking at it, and it's funny because I was just like, damn, I can't even get on some of my most popular gaming videos. Some of them I'm really proud of. I can't even hit like 1,000 views, but this one's like at 11,000 and growing. And so it's weird about the YouTube audience and the way things get kind of popular, but it's really cool when that sort of thing happens with something that you're passionate about, like Godzilla. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, definitely. And the other thing too is definitely have fun with it. I mean, I've I definitely agree with the whole do what you love. That's what I do. And if I didn't enjoy doing this, I wouldn't do it. Cause I don't, from a financial standpoint, I don't need YouTube. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
you work, I work, we do our thing. We do it because we enjoy it. And, I try to follow schedule, but I don't stress myself out too much. I mean, they say be consistent. That's definitely true. But not at the expense of your life. And that's why I make sure that, if I can't do a video, I can't do a video. If I can't put a video up tonight, I can't put a video up tonight. There's definitely other things that take priority. And and I definitely sometimes have to give myself a little breathing room. But it's different if you have like a million subscribers. Then there's a little bit more of an obligation, and those guys obviously must work hard because it's definitely not an easy thing, even as a hobby. Sometimes I'm like, wow, this is really some work. But when I have the video done and I have it up and I'm like, oh man, the lighting looks good. This looks good. Wow, I really did pretty good talking about this topic. You feel proud about the work you put in. And then of course the rewarding factor is the people who comment and the people who view it. And obviously we always look at the numbers in terms of how the views go. And that's, for me, a lot of times it's because I want to see just how much interest did I generate with this topic, or how much interest did I generate with this, not so much how much money did this video make me, because unless you're cracking 150 to 200,000 views per video, you're not making anything. I can tell you that right now. So
yeah, exactly.
So, but it's always fun to look at it from that standpoint.
Exactly. So yeah, I mean that it's funny because we kind of went into a little like YouTube discussion, but it's nice talking about the general essence of YouTube, because a lot of our listeners, I've talked to a lot of them on the group pages, and a lot of them are interested in making channels, and it is one of those things that's very intimidating, because YouTube has become, in the last 5 years even, YouTube's become like something big, and it's hard to believe YouTube's actually been around now for 10 years. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, and that's still very young. I mean, I think to myself, wow, where's this thing going to be another 10, 20 years from now? It's such a huge way for people to put their stuff out there. It's been crippled a little bit ever since Google took over, and they've had to put in the copyright algorithms that they've put in. And understandably, don't get me wrong, obviously, people want to protect their own content, especially bigger corporations, but sometimes it's unfortunate as well, because some of the best things that have happened on YouTube have come with either parodies or using small portions of content that's already been created to make either funny videos or very, very good reviews, or make reviews look more professional if you're able to use the footage. But for the most part, yeah, I mean, it's really grown into something that people can utilize, obviously another form of social networking.
Definitely. And before I get into gaming news, I did also want to mention something that it's a big deal, man. I saw this and my mouth just like it fell on the floor, because I love this magazine. And you put up a post on the Entertainment Talk Nation Facebook group page that you had just written a article of Godzilla vs. Cthulhu for Famous Monsters. Now, tell some of us how you got that gig, because man, that is really, really cool. That is awesome.
Yeah, it's I was on Facebook I logged onto Facebook one night. I think I came in from watching a movie or something, and Chris Kuiper's Goji Fan 93. Everybody knows who Goji Fan is. Another big Godzilla fan, another big Godzilla channel. And he messaged me, say, "Hey, listen, man, I got a message from somebody who's looking for you." And I'm like, "Who?" And I was like, "Who else?" And I look up, and somebody says, "It's like, wait, is the mafia after me? Did I fucking do something?" And I looked up on my my friend request, and a lady named Kelly Dunn friend requested me, and I said, "Who the hell is this? I don't know this person." So, and then he tells me right after that, he's like, "Oh, something about Godzilla versus Cthulhu." So I messaged her, and she said, "Hey, look, I saw your Godzilla versus Cthulhu video, and I thought that it was pretty good. I thought that what you had to say was pretty insightful." She was like, "We're doing a roundtable in our magazine. I think it's called Monsters. I forget the name of the magazine. That's horrible."
Well, Famous Monsters, yeah.
Famous Monsters. Okay, I knew Monsters was in it. And she says, I want to know if you want to do, we're doing a Godzilla vs. Cthulhu roundtable. I want to know if you want to write something on why Godzilla would beat Cthulhu. And I said, "Oh yeah, of course." And she said, "Could you have it for me by the weekend?" And I said, "Sure." So she's like, "Just keep it around no more than 350 words." So, and then she was like, "And send the picture, send your channel logo, blah 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 blah." and I wrote a small piece. I even have it here if you want me to read it for the listeners if they haven't picked up the magazine yet. But yeah, I wrote a small piece and I sent it to her, and then she said this is going to be out the week. We're going to do a special issue for Comic-Con in July, and then in August the magazine will officially be released. I said, okay, great. So right around after I sent it to her, she loved it. She thought it was hilarious, and she thought it was a good counter to what she had already read from some of the Cthulhu writers. And finally, once the time came, like a week or two before Comic-Con, I messaged her. I said, hey, just so you know, this is my address. I'd love you to send me a copy of the magazine. I want to talk about it on my channel. She said, definitely. She said, you could probably expect one by the end of July, early August. I said, all right. And that's when I released it. I talked about it to Facebook. I said, all right, I want these guys to know what's going on. You know, of course, the Nation I kind of use as my exclusivity platform.
Oh,
You know,
exactly. Yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
I'll drop a video early there. Sometimes I'll drop this information early there, because obviously those are my core viewers. And and yeah, that's basically how it happened. She just stumbled upon my video. It's kind of like the time that I auditioned for that reality show. Those people just stumbled upon one of my videos, and that's kind
So
of like,
wild.
I know it's amazing, and that's kind of why I like doing so many different topics because you don't know who's watching. You know?
Yeah, that was like I did a review of one of the Godzilla games on PS2. I think Save the Earth. I did a review for that, and I actually got a comment from one of the developers of that game, and he was like, "Man, it's nice to see somebody years from now still enjoying this game, and we really enjoyed making it, and it was crazy, and yeah, that's exactly one of the biggest examples is you don't know who's watching your content, and for the magazine though that you wrote the article for on Famous Monsters, when can we expect that on the shelves? Is it on the shelves now?
I think August 8th, she said, or something around. She said it's going to be in August, definitely.
Okay.
So August 8th, I believe it says Saturday. I don't know if that's like a magazine day or whatever, but she did say definitely August. It'll be on the shelves, and obviously, if you were lucky enough to go to Comic-Con, that was another opportunity to get a copy. They made that the Comic-Con one's a special edition one. I think it has Godzilla and Cthulhu on the cover. But the regular one that's released in August is going to have the Bride of Frankenstein on the cover, and yeah, it's around. I don't know how many people wrote. I'm dying to read it because I want to see what other people had to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely was a fun opportunity that I'm excited to see the end result. So.
Yeah, and again, that's the magazine's Famous Monsters, guys. If you're not familiar with Famous Monsters, it's a magazine that covers a lot of obviously monsters, but covers a lot of the horror genre and stuff like that. And it's one of the bigger magazines. I mean, like some of the biggest horror movie magazines you have Rue Morgue, you have Fangoria, and you have Famous Monsters. Like I remember when I saw that post and I was like, Famous Monsters, holy shit! I'm like, dude, you just wrote an article for like the Game Informer of horror movies, when it comes to magazines.
And here I am. I'm completely oblivious to it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, oh really? I'm like, well, I had no idea. That's like somebody writing for Vogue and having no clue. It's like, what?
That's funny.
So yeah, it was definitely pretty exciting, and hopefully, if they ever do a kaiju topic, something specific, they'll call me again. That'll be great.
Yeah, definitely. I wish you the best on it, man, because you know your stuff, and I don't want to talk too much about the article because I definitely want people to come out and buy it and check it out. But one thing I will say is one of the things I liked about your Cthulhu article is you focused a lot on the H.P. Lovecraft of Cthulhu and not so much of the Dungeons and Dragons, where I think that's where a lot of people get kind of confused. When they think of Cthulhu, they think about him as a whole and not so much of the stuff that fans have added to it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's the important thing. Plus, just the history. I mean, when we talk about like fictional characters competing, we have to base their fictional history. And history says to us that Godzilla has gone through many battles. In fact, Godzilla is in hell right now, battling. And I read the review for the first one. I'm dying to pick it up. It sounds amazing. Where Cthulhu has no battle history. I mean, so where's the competition there? In my opinion, You know, I mean, one guy has been fighting his whole career. Another guy has barely been visible in a couple of writings. And, we only know fabled tales and stories of his fictional powers. And most of it's been fabricated. So to me, it's no competition.
Yeah, definitely. And going into some gaming news now, I have to admit I haven't been on top of my A game on gaming news. There hasn't really been a whole lot going on. The first one I wanted to talk about, and I think it's one of the biggest like controversial articles, is Hideo Kojima and Konami are back at it again. I swear these guys are like, it's like a messy breakup, because he left Konami. Metal Gear Solid 5 is coming out, the Phantom Pain, and supposedly they've taken his name and his engine name off the cover of Metal Gear Solid 5. So when you pick up Phantom Pain, it will have no mention of Hideo Kojima. And what are your thoughts on that, Rob?
I think that's absurd. I mean, look, whatever's going on between them, I understand that, but you have to keep a level of respect. I mean, this man has made this franchise what it is, and for them to just do a dishonor like that, for, I guess, what we could believe to be the last Metal Gear game, I think it's just absurd.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, it's one of those things, like, there comes a time you have to keep your level of, like, professionalism and business.
Yep.
And, this is how I look at it. Hideo Kojima, he's such a huge name, and Konami having so much problems right now, like, why wouldn't you want his name on there? Like, people are gonna, of course people know that that's his game, but people are going to buy it just because they're like, this is going to be Hideo Kojima's last Konami Metal Gear Solid, because I know Konami's probably still going to try to do stuff on Metal Gear Solid, but it's not going to be the same, and it's just not going to be the essence, because that was like his child, that was like his game, and
oh yeah,
I think I agree with you, it's absurd, and hopefully, they'll meet some middle ground at some point. I'm just looking forward to seeing what Hideo Kojima does later on. I have a feeling he's going to definitely put up his own company very soon, and he still has the Fox engine. That's the biggest. That was one of the biggest things, was Konami wanted to still use the Fox engine. He was like, no, I'm not a part of the company. You guys can't use this. So they're kind of, I don't know, they're kind of being childish about it. I think the whole thing's childish, to be honest.
Yeah, and you want to know something? Another way they shot themselves in the foot. They think for 1 minute there's not going to be a strong number of people who won't go over to his company when he builds it. That's really where they're going to get hurt.
Yeah, and another thing too is, like, I mentioned this in the last episode, but I've noticed this, that a lot of these big developers now are having these spiritual successors, and they're having Kickstarters, and I can only imagine Hideo Kojima doing like his own independent thing and having a Kickstarter for that, and doing one for like maybe a Metal Gear successor, or better yet, a Snatcher successor. If he put out,
Snatcher.
Yeah, I know.
You know how I feel about that. I love Snatcher.
He could go out and do something like that, and he could do something like freaking Shenmue just did. I mean, of course, Shenmue 3 is coming out, and their Kickstarter just ended. They made over $6 million on that Kickstarter, and it's mind-blowing. It was only a $2 million goal, but they've met all their stretch goals. Big congrats to the Shenmue team, and also the supporters. I mean, the various forums like Shenmue Dojo and 5K Shenmue, all these groups that have been taking a part in this, and it's really cool. I'm a big Shenmue fan. I didn't back the Kickstarter just because of, I didn't have the money at the time, but it was one of those things I was like, man, I can't put money on it, but I know it's going to make it. I know it's going to go. And
it's one of those things where you don't have to really beat yourself up. I mean, those guys, and it's amazing. I've never played any one of those games in that series, and now I'm like, wow, maybe I should go back and play that. It's obviously was very popular, and it's an adventure game. And I love RPGs. I love adventures. That's like my primary genre is RPGs and adventure games. And I've heard so many good things, and I'm like, wow, how did this one slip by the wayside when I was playing games a lot of years ago? And apparently it did. So it happens sometimes. These games, so many games come out. I haven't even touched Batman Arkham Knight yet, and I've had it sitting here for 2 weeks. So.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like I think there's games that come out that I think everyone should at least try, and definitely one of them is Shenmue. You know, I think the same thing about Earthbound. There's games that I don't think everyone would like, you know, but it's one of those games that I think everyone should play. Because I mean, the thing about Shenmue is I know people that absolutely love the game. And I know people that it just didn't, you know, tickle their pickle or whatever. You know, it just didn't get them going.
Right.
You know,
Yep.
and I can understand it. I can understand both spectrums, you know, but yeah, I mean, for a game at its time, like Shenmue really broke a lot of boundaries. I mean, that was kind of like the first actual sandbox style game for consoles, and you know, without Shenmue, I mean, we wouldn't have a lot of games that we have, you know, like Assassin's Creed and you know, a lot of these sandbox style games. We wouldn't have those because that was such a new concept. I mean, people were flipping out, you know, saying the fact that you could be walking down the street and go into someone's house, open up their drawer, and pick up fruit out of their drawer. Now, that's something that is normal. You know, when we talk about like Skyrim and Oblivion and stuff like that, people are like, oh, yeah. But back then, that was just unheard of. That was just crazy.
Yeah, and just to mention real quick, and it's no problem with me if, you know, Ubisoft decides to take a break from Assassin's Creed for a while. You know, like, I just want to say that real quick. I mean, you know, this is one thing to go out there and really push a game that's good, but God, man, Assassin's Creed every year.
Yeah.
I mean, people talk about Call of Duty copy and paste. I think Assassin's Creed deserves a little bit of that. I mean, my God, this Assassin's Creed, and don't get me wrong, you know, very good game and stuff like that, but oh man, no.
Yeah, there can be a thing of just too much, and the fact that, you know, it wouldn't be so bad if they were coming out with games every year and like the quality was getting better and better and better, but you know, like we saw with Assassin's Creed Unity, it was terrible. It was a financial disaster, you know, coming out with a game that's so unfinished, and they needed a freaking 11 gig patch to fix it. I mean, that's just crazy.
Yeah, well, and you know, it's unfortunate. That's the common practice now. It drives me insane.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the other news segments that I want to talk about before we get into our break, you know, and this is some very sad news. You know, this week, Iwata, the CEO of Nintendo, passed away. He was actually battling cancer. He had a growth on his, I believe, on his leg, and he went and he had surgery for it, and the surgery went well, but he actually passed away from complications. And it's very unfortunate. I made a video talking about it, and you know, I kind of want to keep the podcast positive in the sense that I don't want to get, you know, I don't want us to get sad or anything like that, or get in a upset mood. It's more of a celebration talking about him, because I mean, he was a big deal in Nintendo, and I think a lot of people didn't realize that until they read a little bit more about him after his death, unfortunately. But, you know, he took over the Yamauchi dynasty. You know, the people behind Nintendo, like all the presidents of Nintendo before him were either related by blood or marriage to run Nintendo, but he was the first, like, non-relative in 2002 to run Nintendo, and he was also a programmer as well. I mean, he was a gamer who became president. He wasn't just a businessman groomed by the family, you know?
Yeah, and you know, it's especially when you think about how Nintendo kind of, I don't want to say paved the way, because there were consoles before, but it brought gaming out into the light. You know, it really put gaming on, because gaming was not the way it is now, where it's out there. Everyone plays, you know, all ages. That's not how it was back in the day. And for him to be a part of a company that basically more or less paved the way for the later companies, Sony, Microsoft, and things like that, that's just an epic legacy to leave behind, you know? And it's definitely unfortunate, especially when you consider it's Nintendo. You know, everyone knows Super Mario Brothers, right? Everybody knows The Legend of Zelda. Everybody knows Metroid. You know, not everybody is familiar, believe it or well, I shouldn't say not familiar with Call of Duty, but that's just, even though people could say, well, it sells more games than Super Mario Brothers, it doesn't have the legacy that Super Mario Brothers does. It doesn't, and it never will. It never will. Not the kind of legacy a Super Mario Brother game has or a Legend of Zelda game has, you know. And when you think about games that were inspired from Legend of Zelda and Super Mario, you know, Crash Bandicoot, you know, Alundra, you know, games like that. When I see those games, I see a lot of inspiration from the Mario series and the Legend of Zelda series. So it's amazing to be part of something, not only part of something so special, but to have such a big influence in it. And yeah, man, it's sad. It's definitely sad that he's gone. But yeah, I agree with you. I think what he was a part of and what he left behind is what's to celebrate, because he's entertained people of all ages for years, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, and then I was going to talk about some of the top things that he's done for the company. You know, one of the biggest things that he did was, you know, he did value his employees, and sometimes at his own expense. I mean, if you guys remember, you know, last year the Wii U wasn't selling too well, and you know, he knew that was not a good thing. So instead of, you know, letting smaller employees go, you know, thinning out, you know, to help the expense, he actually took a pay cut in his salary, and that's something you don't see a whole lot of CEOs do. You know, CEO,
oh no way.
You know, that's usually, you know, when something like that happens, they're like, well, let's get rid of Peter over there who, you know, fills up the ink tanks and the printers. We don't really need this guy. But you know, he thought about that, and also, you know, he was one of the main key factors in Earthbound. You know, he was one of the programmers. He was one of the guys that, you know, when they were running really, really short on time, he actually sat down and programmed it. He did the same thing for Pokemon. He crammed a whole country into a game cartridge, and he did it in a week. You know,
wow.
He did it.
Yeah, and it's funny because isn't that one of the most sought after traditional games out there for retro collectors?
Yeah, definitely. And here's another thing. He announced Super Smash Bros. Brawl before telling the development team, because he knew that Smash Bros. Was so popular. He was like, you know what, we're coming out with the new Smash Bros. And then he went back to HAL, which HAL Laboratories is what he used to work for before he became the president of Nintendo. He was like, I'll go back to HAL, and if they don't want to make another Smash Bros., I'll just make Melee ported to the Wii with Wi-Fi support. So it was like a win-win. He was very clever with it. And of course, you know, Smash Brothers came out with Smash Brothers Brawl, and that whole thing started there. And he was also responsible for the Miiverse integration in Super Mario 3D World. You know, adding that online capability to that platformer, which was really, really cool. And of course, one of the games he was most famous for was, of course, Kirby and Balloon Fight. Balloon Fight was one of his first programmable games that he put out, but his first coded commercial game was Super Billiards on the NES, or actually the NES and an MSX home computer. And the last thing I wanted to say was he actually bought, with his own money, he bought Ocarina of Time when it launched, because he loved the game so much he wanted to make sure that Nintendo got, you know, some of his money from it. So I mean, that really shows something, that he was a really humble guy.
Yeah, you know? and you know what? And that's because you will never hear a CEO jeopardizing their salary or their bonus for the better of the company and the employees. And that's a very, very, you know, it's a very humble thing to do. And you know, that's the kind of person I think a lot of companies need. You know, someone who knows that the people underneath him are what make the company drive. You know, that it's not, you know, he makes the big executive decisions. He makes the key decisions that make the company go in a direction, but the people are the engine that makes that go. So yeah, it's unfortunate. And I think, and it's funny too, because Ocarina of Time is probably one of the most successful, I would say, with Link to the Past, because those are my two favorite Zelda games, A Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time. And it's funny that you think about it, like, maybe his purchase of that game is what put it over the top. You know?
Little do we know, he actually bought 300 of them.
Yeah, right? They're in a safe.
But yeah, I mean, it really comes to show you what kind of person he was, and you know, it's really sad, and you know, there's we're not sure what exactly Nintendo is going to be doing now. I know there's a lot of people that made videos like, what's new, what's in for Nintendo, who's going to be the next president. But the thing is like, the one thing I want to say is it's not American Idol. It's not, they're not trying to pick who's the next best president or anything like that. I think, because he's been sick it's been a year, that he was sick. And, any sort of illness like that can turn so serious. And being the company they are, I know they've probably prepared and groomed someone behind closed doors, and they're going to probably reveal that sometime, probably next week or the week after from this podcast, because they just had his funeral last week, and I think that was just out of respect. It was just kind of like one of those things like, let's wait before we're like, and here's our new president. Let's have a little bit of time for mourning, have some time to remember him because he was such an important part of Nintendo, and then let's move forward with the company. And I think that was the big kudos to Nintendo, because most companies wouldn't have done that.
Yeah, it's business as usual. Yeah, and it's definitely not something you have to rush. I mean, I'm sure there were people under him that are more than capable of holding the fort down until they find somebody that they feel will definitely, run the company, at least if nothing else in a similar fashion to him. So, but I think Nintendo's going to be fine. One thing about Nintendo, I think a lot of people seem to underestimate is that they're very dedicated to the kind of audience, the kind of people who purchase their products. I mean, there's been a lot of criticism with the Wii U lately and things like that, but they always manage to move forward because, man, their handheld market is just dominating. They make so much money with that handheld market. It's unbelievable that can carry. At times, it's carried the company up until like when the Wii came out. Obviously, the Wii blew everybody else out the water. So I'm not too worried about Nintendo. I mean, we can sit here and talk about all their decisions recently and criticize certain things, but that's one company I'm never concerned about. They've always seemed to come up with something innovative that puts them back on top. I mean, everybody felt good when the Wii was blowing away PlayStation and Xbox, because deep inside, I think everybody's a Nintendo fan. I mean, especially if you're a little bit of an older, like me and you, we've been there. We've played these games back in the day. So, there's always that little person inside you that's like, yeah, man, Nintendo, all right. Yes, new Zelda game, right, yes.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, what we're going to do, though, guys, we're going to take a short break. And, just to keep the Iwata tribute going, I'm actually going to play some music from the Smash Brothers soundtrack, a little remix of Balloon Fight. So check that out. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about monsters and video games. And I know this is going to be really exciting, because, Rob, you're like the kaiju guy.
I love it.
So when we come back, guys, just check it out. So we'll be right back. And we are back, guys. That was Balloon Fight, the remix on the Super Smash Brothers soundtrack. Hopefully you guys were lucky enough to get a copy of that with Nintendo Club. But yeah, we're going to be talking about monsters and video games. Talk a little bit about, various influences that, the monsters have made into video games. It's kind of crazy. I mean, when I think about it, I think the earliest monster I remember in video games would be the Dragon in Adventure on Atari. You remember that?
Oh my God, no, I don't. That's probably one. That's probably a game for. I mean, I played a lot of the older popular, Qbert, stuff like that. But yeah, that game, no, definitely don't remember that one.
Well, that game had a big impact in gaming in the sense that before Adventure came out, developers that had no names in their credits. They didn't have anything like that. You paid up the game and that's what you got. Well, they actually had an Easter egg in Adventure that you could actually unlock a secret room, and when you unlock the secret room, it would say the name of the developer in the room, and that was something really big. And one book I definitely want to recommend if you guys want to know more about Adventure and some more like old school like Atari Easter eggs is Ready Player One. Fantastic book, and it's nice to see that that's actually going to be becoming a movie very soon, directed by Steven Spielberg. I'm looking forward to that. But
Oh wow.
yeah, I mean that was probably one of my earliest memories, and of course, both of us being fans of Godzilla. Did you know that Godzilla actually made a cameo in Revenge of Shinobi?
Yes, that I do know. Yes, in
Yeah.
fact, wasn't he a boss?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
It was funny. It was like Revenge of Shinobi had so many parody characters, and it kind of got Sega into trouble later on. If you get some of the later copies of Revenge of Shinobi, they kind of had to alter the bosses because I mean there was a boss you battled that was like Spider-Man, and he turned into Batman, and it was like straight up Superman and Batman. But of course they had to change it a little bit. They made like Spider-Man kind of pinkish, and they turned Batman more into a demon than the Caped Crusader that we all know and love. But yeah, that was insane. But I think a lot of the monsters that we remember most are probably from RPGs.
Oh yeah, tons of monsters from RPGs of not only of mythical nature, but just what some could argue would even be considered a kaiju.
Yeah, exactly.
To some respects. So definitely, yeah.
I mean, because I think of like Final Fantasy, I think of like Leviathan, and he
Oh
had
yeah.
Leviathan has so much of a rich history just by himself without the Final Fantasy tagline, and I think that's one of the interesting things about video games, and one of the things I love about it is you can enjoy a video game and you can have that your own experience with that, but you can also dive into the development's ideas and some of the mythology that comes with some of these monsters, and you think of games like Okami. Okami had such a huge influence from Japanese mythology of all the various different demons like the Tengu and the crying lady and stuff like that. It's really interesting stuff.
Another good example too is God of War.
Oh yeah.
God of War. I mean, all the Greek mythology in there, and you get all the mythical creatures and the gods, and that's another game, and a game I enjoy immensely. I love the God of War series, and that's probably one of the reasons why. And like I remember the first one, the first God of War, and on the very first mission, you're fighting the sea serpent, and that's what introduced us to the I guess they call it stop action fighting.
Oh yeah,
You gotta
yeah.
click the button and then make your move, then click the button again, and yeah, I mean that's just amazing when I first played that game, and then later on, obviously, the graphics just got so much better, and the creatures just look more. You got the harpies, and it's just Medusa, the gorgons,
man.
and all that. Just great stuff, man. This is great stuff.
And of course, you can't mention monsters in video games without mentioning Castlevania. I mean, like
Oh, of course.
I mean, that's definitely one of the reasons why that is my favorite series of all times because if James was here, he would agree as well. That Castlevania introduced the whole Universal monsters, that already had their own legacy, but it was a game that you actually could battle Dracula, and when I first saw that cover, of Castlevania, I had just got done watching Conan at the time, and I was watching movies like Conan and Beastmaster, and to see Simon Belmont, it kind of made me think of like a Conan Beastmaster kind of guy, and then you saw the silhouette of Dracula, who looked oddly enough more like the Joker from Batman than he did Dracula, but I was just like, it was like the epitome of things that I love as a kid when I saw that cover. It had so much to offer, and I was just like, oh my god, I have to get this, and I just fell in love with it. And yeah, the freaking, when I hear Medusa, I think of more Castlevania than I do anything else. I mean, I think of the Greek mythology, you know, but I just picture myself jumping on those platforms and those freaking Medusa heads trying to knock me down, man. Oh my god. Those were like the bane of my existence.
And then, of course, if you want to talk about game monsters, one of the more popular ones, which is actually being developed into a movie, Rampage.
Yeah, isn't The Rock going to be in that?
He is going to be in that, yes.
Now, not to go off too much off subject, but what are your thoughts about The Rock doing Big Trouble in Little China?
You know, he's been, I've enjoyed him so much in cinema that I'm not, because Big Trouble in Little China is one of my favorite classic movies, and Kurt Russell at that time he was great. I liked a lot of Kurt Russell movies back in the day, but I think he's going to be fine. I don't think it's a big deal. You know, obviously you know, when you cast The Rock in any movie, especially a movie that was made before and they're rebooting or redoing, he's always going to be physically just so much bigger than the original actor.
Oh,
the
yeah.
guy's just enormous that it always looks a little weird at first, but he's done so well.
He's really broke the mold of like the pro wrestler meets actor. I mean, to me he's more successful in that department than Hulk Hogan would ever think of.
Oh yeah, and not only that, Hogan was a bad actor. I mean, at least The Rock has some skill. You know, I like one movie, and I know this again off topic, but real quick. One movie that convinced me that The Rock has acting skills was Snitch.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you ever saw that, but if you haven't, get a chance, pick it up or see it or whatever. He really did a good job in that movie, acting wise, because he didn't play the typical badass big guy. He was actually very vulnerable. He was his son and all this stuff. I was impressed in that movie. Yeah, man. So just a lot of great monsters and games over the years. And real quick, Xander, I just want to say we have a special guest on your show, and I kind of just bogarted her on here, but Amy is here from the channel. She's my new co-worker, if you want to say, or co-host, if you want to put it that way, and she just came in, so I asked her to join us if that's okay.
That's fine, man. It's more the merrier. It's kind of funny.
Amy, if you want to say hi to the listeners.
Hey everybody, it's Amy.
Definitely, yeah. I've been watching Amy, some of her new videos on the Nation. It's really interesting seeing a different side to the Nation like that. And Amy, I guess we can ask you real quick since you jumped on. What's one of your favorite monsters in a video game?
Oh gosh, I'm trying to think. Monsters in a video game. You know, I am such a big DC person, so I don't think. I guess Killer Croc in the Batman
there you go.
in the Batman games, the Arkhams have been. He's been really good.
He's been tough.
Yeah,
it's a tough boss.
Very intimidating. And you know, speaking of Arkham, I think one of the things that really freaked me out when I first played Arkham was the Scarecrow moment when you thought your game was messed up.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I actually thought my game was messed up because I bought the game used, and I was talking to a friend of mine on Xbox on like a party chat, you know, and we were sitting there playing, and he had already played and beaten Arkham, and I'm sitting there playing and talking to him about the game and stuff, and I was like, my game just screwed up. He was like, yeah? And I'm like, yeah, dude. And I was just like, and I even turned the game off. Like, I jumped out of the party and I came back on, and I was stressing out. I'm like, dude, I bought this game used. Oh my god, I don't even have the receipt. I didn't do that replacement plan that GameStop's always talking about. Shit, you know. So, you know, I jumped back in and got the game started, and he jumped back in the party. He was laughing his ass off. He was like, dude, it's totally like a little Easter egg thing, kind of like how Metal Gear Solid did with Psycho Mantis, but that was like, Psycho Mantis was just, a little prank. This thing actually made me think my game was screwed up. But yeah, man, when I think of Arkham Asylum, I think of that Scarecrow scene where I thought that my game was busted. Oh my god.
That's funny.
And that could also be there's a really fine line about the subject. We're talking about monsters, but Scarecrow and Killer Croc are just as much of a monster as anything else. In a different sense, Scarecrow's a little bit more of psychological, not just a big physical, big bad guy in a video game. But yeah, you still battle him in a very big way. I mean, he's a big guy at some point in the game.
Also, that monster Joker.
Oh yeah.
When he took the venom.
Oh my god, yes, I remember that. That was a tough fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was insane. And we were talking about RPG monsters. The essence that comes with them, the backstories, and comic books have the same way too. I mean, you sit there and you play a game like Batman, and you know who the Joker is, but to see him take the venom and turn huge like that, we didn't see that coming. Not to make a Quicksilver reference, but we didn't see that coming.
No, we didn't. Didn't see that coming. Oh man, yeah, and another video game monster that I remember playing. We talk about Final Fantasy, we go back to that. And we always talk about they've had a number of dragons, and dragons obviously in some sense or another are monsters. In Final Fantasy 12, there was this special dragon that you fought, this big monstrous dragon that wasn't a monster that you beat in one sitting. I don't know if you ever played Final Fantasy 12, Xander, but you literally had to. This monster had so many hit points, you literally have to go back and forth. Like you would have to fight him for maybe an hour. And then go do your thing, save the game, maybe come back another day and continue fighting him.
Wow.
I forget the name of the dragon, but boy, was that a pain in the ass.
It's one of those things like 12, I never got to beat that. That was one of the games that I tried to get into, and I couldn't get into 12 for some reason. Not that it's a bad game, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. But when I think of Final Fantasy and monsters, you brought up a little memory trigger here. I started thinking about the Emerald and Ruby weapons in Final Fantasy VII.
Oh my god, yes, those were crazy. You had to have some serious material combinations to beat those guys.
And what's really funny is usually we hear about these kind of monsters and we think of them being in like the Japanese version and not in the American version, but this was like it actually switched. The Emerald and Ruby weapon is not in the Japanese version of Final Fantasy VII, but they were actually in the American version. Usually we think of like Japanese, giving us
good stuff.
Yeah, and we think about them giving us the games and making them, a little simpler for us American players. But they went all balls out with this and like, here, battle this underwater monster that you have to have underwater materia because you got to beat this guy in 30 minutes. And oh yeah, every hit's like over 9,000.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
If you didn't have leveled up materia with serious combinations, then you were screwed. There was no way you could beat him.
Yeah, that was just insane. But oh my gosh. But yeah, I mean, Amy, since we got you on the show real quick, maybe you could tell the listeners what is one of your favorite games of all time?
Let's see here. Actually, I love the Lego games.
Oh yeah.
They're just fun because I am not a very good video game player. My husband, I like to watch him play and I'll help him. So the Lego games, I feel like I can play no matter what, and it's fun. You die, but then you come back to life immediately. So I love the simplicity of it, but also like the fun stories and the fun little Easter eggs they'll have in there.
Yeah, Lego games are a big hit now.
Yeah, and there's honestly there's not a bad Lego game.
No.
I've heard. I've never played a Lego game.
Oh my gosh, you should totally play the Batman 3 because they have everybody in it.
She is so DC. It's going to be very interesting considering I'm a Marvel guy. Me and her could definitely have a debate video one day.
Oh.
Well, we have the Marvel. We have the Marvel Lego game, and we played it. But like Stan Lee, like I know he's done so much for comics, but they overused him so much in that
Oh, did
game.
they?
Oh my gosh. And it's like you have to find Stan Lee in various situations and he keeps saying Excelsior and that's all he says.
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
But like in 3 they do something like that with Adam West. We have to find Adam West, but with him they change it up a little bit and he's
Yep.
making fun of himself and it's cute. So
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, they're supposed to be making a Lego Batman movie.
Yes, they are. They just cast their Robin for that. I can't remember who it is now. But yeah, I think Will Arnett's still doing Batman.
He's got a good voice for it too,
Yeah.
and he's funny.
Yeah.
Hey, Xander, I was just thinking as she was talking about the Lego, we're talking about monsters in games. Dude, how about the monsters in the Soul series and Bloodborne?
Oh my god.
I mean, you want to talk about monsters.
Jeez. I didn't get to tell you this, Rob. And this is a funny story, and the listeners I think will get a kick of this. I had always wanted to try the Dark Souls games. I had never tried any of them. The first one I played of that, world was Bloodborne. And I was doing a share play with our friend Amanda. I was doing a share play with her, and she had already played some of it. I was so green at it. She was like getting frustrated because I wasn't picking up all the items. She's like, "You gotta pick up all the items. You gotta do this. You gotta do that." So I'm sitting there playing, and I was starting to get the hang of it. So much so that I was starting to get kind of cocky. I'm not gonna lie, I was getting kind of cocky, and. There was a part where, you go in and there's like, you could go left or you could go right. If I went right, I could battle these 2 werewolves. And I was just kind of like, oh, I don't know about those werewolves. But then if you go left, it looked like there was nothing there. And Amanda was like, yeah, just, if you don't want to battle the werewolves, that's cool. You don't have to battle them. I'm like, oh, thank God. She's like, just go left. And I went left. And that's when you ran into the first boss.
Oh.
Oh,
right.
Oh my God. I remember I was walking that way and this huge behemoth, squid guy thing just jumped down and I was like, holy shit. I was like, I changed my mind. I'll battle the werewolves. And I'm like trying to run away from it.
The werewolves don't look so bad. Just get me a dog biscuit.
Oh my God. It was so funny. But yeah, that game right there, man. I saw some of the clips from Dark Souls 3 at E3, and oh my gosh, yeah, the monsters are so detailed. And another monster game that we could talk about, and I don't know if you've played it or not, but I know a member of the Nation group page made a comment about, but Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh, of course.
Oh man,
yeah, that's a prime example. These colossal sized monsters, basically. And you have to climb them and find their weak points to kill them. Yeah, that's a great game. That is a fantastic game. Very sad game.
Yeah, he was asking me. He was like, I've never played this game. I don't understand yet why everybody's so, crazy about it. And I told him, I was like, dude, just stick with it. I was like, the story and the ending will blow your mind. That's all I told him. And that's all I'm going to say about it because I feel like it's one of those games that you haven't played before. It's definitely an experience. Kind of like we were talking about with Shenmue and Earthbound. It's one of those games that you have to play if you're a gamer.
Oh, definitely.
But we're going to talk a little bit more about monsters, and then we're going to get into the YouTube spotlight and games we've been playing recently. And last but not least, I definitely want you guys to plug your channel. So, is there any last monsters you guys wanted to mention in this segment?
Well, we didn't mention Godzilla.
Of course.
But I guess he goes without saying. Yeah,
well, I definitely wanted to mention Godzilla and games we've been playing recently. Because that's one game. That's one game I've been playing recently. And what are your thoughts about the new Godzilla game, Rob?
Because as a fan, I'm loving it. I'm having a lot of fun. As a gamer, I think it's very bad. I think it needs a lot of improvement. You know me, I'm always about progression for the character Godzilla because I'm such a fan. I've been a fan since I was 3 years old. And that's one thing that I pushed when the movie came out was trying to convince the hardcore Godzilla fans to not view it as them or for themselves, to view it for the general audience because at the end of the day, the general audience is going to pave the way for Godzilla in the future. Why? Because they're going to bring in more money than the hardcore fans. There's no exception with games. And I think that while there's elements about the game that are just fantastic. I love the unlockables. I love that the 2014 Godzilla's in the game, but they need to improve the controls. They need to improve the graphics. And there's got to be some story in there. I mean, to just run around destroying buildings all day, it can get redundant. And I think Namco Bandai did a poor job executing the game, and this, it's time that, look, we always said it's time for Godzilla to get a good movie that everybody can enjoy. We got that. I don't think we should stop with gaming.
Yeah, I agree. And, I've had a couple of people ask me about it, and I actually talked a little bit about it in my recent video on YouTube. But I agree. It's really not the best game. And, I tell people, I'm like, they're like, oh, how's this Godzilla game? I'm like, how big of a fan of Godzilla are you? Because, if you're not like a diehard Godzilla fan, you probably need to wait for this game to the price drop. Wait for it.
It's definitely not worth the $64 price tag.
No, and it's going to be one of those games that will drop in value very fast. I could see it in the bargain bin like 2 months from now, to be perfectly honest. But I mean, it has its pros and cons. I know some people. Some people mentioned, like the graphics and stuff like that, and to me, the graphics could be a lot better. But at the same time, the dated graphics, because it is a PS3 game, but even as a PS3 game, it looks kind of meh. To me, it made me feel more like I was in a Toho set, because some people were like, "Oh, the buildings look so bland." I'm like, "Yeah, like they're almost made of cardboard."
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I had no issues with the monster design. The monster designs are great. There's a slight improvement, but not nearly as much as the maps, the background, the textures. Another thing they got to improve too is the physics. The physics in that game are horrendous.
And the fact that when you play the game, it's got such a vast world that you're walking around, but it's actually very, very closed in. Like, there was times I was sitting there walking, and I'm like trying to get to the generator, because I mean that's pretty much what the story mode is. You're Godzilla, you're destroying generators. Oh, here comes the kaiju. You got to battle the kaiju. That's pretty much the essence of it.
That's it.
And, I'm sitting there going, and I'm knocking over buildings, and I'm, like, trying to get to a spot, and I'm like, it looks like I can walk here. And I look down, and you see, like, an orange line. That's, like, your boundary. And I'm like, damn. Either, I'm really gotten big, because that's the thing, is, like, the more you battle, the bigger Godzilla gets. I'm like, either I'm really huge, or I really don't have that much room to walk around. And it is kind of funny, when you build Godzilla up, and he gets so big that the other kaiju are like up to your knee.
Oh yeah, and the other thing too is one thing about the game is that it forces you to replay it, and because you have to replay over and over and over and over to get to unlock stuff, to get the monsters bigger, by collecting the by doing the generators to get the energy you need to grow. And the problem there is that the game is short, number one. Number two, I mean, how much can you replay the same kind of thing over and over and over again?
And it makes you feel like you did something wrong, because me and Amanda were talking about that. We were sitting there playing, and like you finish it, and it's like to be continued, and we're like, well, what did I do wrong? Because she'd get to like the 19th stage, and she'd get like a to be continued. I get like stage 23 and get to be continued, and we're like looking at each other being like, is there something we're doing wrong? Is there something we're supposed to do extra?
Oh, so you mean it goes beyond stage 12?
Yeah,
because that's where I got my to be continued. I'm like, that's it. I'm like, all right, well.
It's so weird. And
so I'm gonna go back to playing Heroes of the Storm now.
But yeah, as a game, it needs a lot of work. Fan service, they got it spot on. The whole Godzilla emotion, they got that spot on. But it's definitely a game that, I would say if you're not a hardcore fan, wait for a price drop. It'll be like $30 in 2 months.
Probably less. And the only thing I'm happy about is that I bought the game. I didn't have to use any cash. I had a bunch of store credits stored up. In fact, I was kind of stashing it away for this game because I just had a feeling.
Yeah.
I'm like, I definitely got to play it because I'm a fan, but something tells me this is not going to be that hot. And I could easily be biased and say it's the best game since since Final Fantasy VII, but no, no, not quite, not quite. But it does have some good elements about it that I really like. I love a bunch of the way you can unlock stuff. That's probably one of the best things about the game, and the monster designs and the Godzilla and how he acts and how he lumbers through. The him moving methodically is a double-edged sword though, because on one hand it's like, yeah, that's how he is, that's great. On the other hand, I'm like, oh my god, I want to get 100% destruction on this map, and the building is all the way on the other side, and he moves like 2 miles per hour. It's like, all right.
Yeah, he's really slow.
Yeah, he is. But that's how it is. So we'll have to see what they come up with next.
Yeah, hopefully the game sells enough that we can see a successful sequel, like a sequel to come out that kind of fix some of the problems that it has. But I mean, it's got a lot of potential. It's not the best game, but it's got some potential.
Yeah, but it is the best Godzilla game, I think, graphically, believe it or not. But when you consider that the last one came out so long ago, I mean, that's to be expected, even if it's by accident.
Exactly, and Before we end the podcast, I do want to do my little YouTube spotlight. This is where I talk about a YouTube channel that you guys should definitely check out. One of them I'm going to be talking about is my friend Chris's channel, BioPhoenix. He's a fellow friend of mine. We're on a couple of different group pages. I've talked to him a couple of times on Facebook, but he's got a really great channel, guys. You guys could check him out, especially if you're big into RPGs and anime. He does a lot of cosplaying. He does a lot of anime reviews. He has like a one point in time of the year that he does like an anime segment, and it's really, really cool. But he covers a lot of pickups and RPGs, and he's got a good taste in games. And I will definitely leave a link to his YouTube channel in the description of the podcast, and also to Rob's podcast with him and Amy doing Entertainment Talk Nation. And before we end the show, Rob, any last plugs you want to talk about for the listeners?
Oh, definitely. If you're getting excited for Star Wars, definitely check out the channel. We're doing Star Wars videos pretty much every week, leading up to the movie, and it's probably not going to end there. We'll definitely be reviewing the movies towards the end of the year. Also, as you know, Xander, many people who are familiar with the Entertainment Talk Nation, I've been expanding the roster. So Amy, who you heard earlier in the podcast, she's a new member. She's been doing a fine job. She's been getting a lot of great reception, and she will definitely be doing Star Wars videos as well. She's also a DC advocate, so she's a yin to my yang, being a Marvel person myself. So that should definitely help the viewers who are more DC fans and kind of hate when I just favor Marvel all the time. But you can definitely find Entertainment Talk Nation. Search, just type in ETN, and I'll definitely pop up. If you're a Godzilla fan, if you like Arrow, The Flash, Walking Dead, Game of Thrones, movies. So I don't review all movies, but I definitely review some of the bigger movies. And, of course, conspiracy theories, which is probably the one element of my channel that's a little off, but it seems to be one of the popular series. And eventually, Xander, we will start the ETN podcast again, so keep your ears open for that. And I know Xander will plug it. He had a lot of fun doing that with me. So now that things are kind of falling into place, we can get back to doing that.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said to you, man, just tell me when and I will be there. It's like, hey, we're going to do a podcast. I'm like, all right, I'm always down for it. And it's a great podcast. You guys can check that out on Podbean. You can check out the ETN podcast. We have a couple episodes on that, and once everything gets squared away, yeah, definitely, I'm down to go that route again. And definitely, guys, check out BioPhoenix, check out ETN. And, of course, I want to thank you guys for listening to another episode of Excess Gaming Podcast. And I also want to say a big thank you for James for being on the show. Unfortunately, he couldn't be on the show tonight, or today, I should say, because I guess he's still sleeping. He's a hardworking guy, man. I give him he's been on every single episode. I give him the pass go on this. He'll probably message me after I start recording, and be like, "Oh man, I'm so sorry," but he's always a great person on the show, and he's been kind of missed. I admit I miss some James Gruesome on this podcast.
Your bromance.
Yeah, man. He's my right wing, man. But yeah, definitely. I want to thank you guys for taking the time to listen, and as always, happy gaming.